Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Gun Runner, one of the world's best horses, will start off as a deserving heavy favorite in the prestigious Grade 1 Woodward Stakes. DRF handicapper Matt Bernier and I will analyze the Woodward as well as the Grade 3 Saranac Stakes from the Spa and the Grade 1 Delmar Debutante for 2-year-old fillies at Delmar. JK's Play of the Day, a Saratoga Pick 3. The Timeform U.S. Spotlight, Craig Milkowski breaks down the Delmar Debutante. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick segment focuses on 2 stakes races for 2-year-olds at Monmouth. Plus, horses to watch, best bets, and lots more. Let's get ready to break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate as we do each and every week with our Horse Watch segment. DRF handicapper Matt Bernier, you've got a fast horse who's a little bit under the radar as it pertains to the sort of mile division right now.
Older horse, though. This is a horse maybe people here in New York are familiar with. His name is Diversify. We're going to take a look at his most recent win. This was in the Evan Shipman on the New York Bred Showcase Day, and you see him out there. At this point, he's just going to bury this field. But I think something to keep in the back of your mind. He's going to pop back to his left lead late. I think he wants to go shorter than this. This race was at 1 1/8. He earned a gaudy 108 buyer. He's gone out 9 times. He's won 6 different starts. He's only been out of the exacta once. He has 4 triple-digit buyers to his name. You're going to see him pop back over just in a minute now. I don't know. It's a situation where I kind of look at this horse and wonder, maybe the Kelso, but I'm even thinking down the road, why not Cigar Mile?
He's got some speed. It appears that the Kelso is on the radar for his connections and his trainer, Rick Violette. And boy, the Kelso right now looks like a loaded race as a final prep for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Now, my horse watch this week is not heading for the Breeders' Cup. His name is Donji, and we're going to take a look at Donji's most recent race at Delmar. In the early portion of this race, you're going to notice he's the number 2, and he's in between horses in a very spirited and contested pace. They go 22 and 3 in this $32,000 claiming race, and Donji is in and among horses dueling with 3 other runners. We pick it up again down towards the backstretch, and the real racing is going to begin as they enter the turn. The pace horses are kicking on for home, and in the Timeform U.S. chart of this race, the second fraction was red. It indicated it was hot. Donji has now put away all of the other pace foes, but as you see, he is under all-out urging. These other pace horses, they can't keep up with Donji, but take a look at the horse on the outside. The horse that had been sitting back in last, letting all the other runners do the dirty work, and he picks the bones of Donji late. I do like the fact that Donji, when he sees this horse on the outside, is re-energized in battles, and he only loses by a half length. In his last 2 dirt races, Donji has earned his 2 best buyer speed figures. His lifetime record, not that enthusiastic. 38 starts, 9 seconds, 6 thirds. But I think this horse is in good form, and he was claimed out of this race by a solid trainer in Leonard Powell. I'm looking to see this runner back in a similar spot on the Southern California circuit, perhaps at Los Alamitos for his next start. That's Donji. Let's get to some handicapping. The feature race, the DRF.com formulator race of the day, is the Grade 1 Woodward featuring Gun Runner. 4 graded stakes races on tap at Saratoga on Saturday. Let's take a look at the field for the feature. The Grade 1 $750,000 Woodward Stakes, only a field of 5, but you've got one of the best horses in the world as the 2 to 5 morning line favorite. That's the number 2, Gun Runner. For expanded stakes previews of many of the graded stakes races this Labor Day weekend, head on over to video.drf.com. We talk about every horse in every graded stakes race. Matt Gun Runner, you'll readily admit, is the horse to beat. He's come back from Dubai, and what Dubai jinx? It all started with the Stephen Foster handicap, and he pounded that field by 7 with a 110 buyer.
He's been awesome since he's come back. You really can't knock the horse. I suppose the only thing, if you are trying to make a case against him, is, he's going to be a very, very short price. And I guess the other thing for me, we're taking a look at the Foster right now. He's already put this field to bed. He's had just perfect trip on top of perfect trip, and I want to find out if, maybe we don't find out Saturday, but I'd like to know what happens to this horse when he has to overcome, I don't even want to call it adversity, but just a challenge from anyone, because so far all of these races have been gift wrapped. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I'd like to see him overcome some sort of difficulties.
Well, that leads me perfectly into my next question, the pace of this race. Todd Pletcher has entered the 2 horses that I think most horse players believe have the best chances of upsetting Gunrunner. Neolithic, Rally Cry. Both of these horses have shown speed in the past, and the Gunrunner that we've seen as a 4-year-old likes to be forwardly placed. How do you see this race being run, especially into the first turn?
Well, I think Neolithic on the stretch out, I think everyone just immediately assumes he's the one that's going to show the speed because he has in the past. I kind of think it's going to go the other way. I think Rally Cry has to go because that just seems to be the name of his game. He likes to be forwardly placed. Neolithic's return to the races, initially I thought it was just kind of blah. Going back and looking at it, I really liked it. I thought it was one of those instances where he clearly wants more distance. He was coming off of a long layoff. He had a little bit of a fever or some sort of a temperature when he came back, so there was a reason it took him that long to get back. I think Neolithic's going to be the one to sit, and I think Rally Cry goes.
Now, does that benefit Neolithic? If Rally Cry and Gunrunner sort of hook up, the pace starts to get hot. Neolithic, as you mentioned, can be close in route races. And his race last time out, as you mentioned, was good simply because that distance is a little bit short from. Does that benefit Neolithic if Rally Cry is the one to push Gunrunner?
Well, I think that's the only way that Neolithic can win. I don't think you can sit and let Gunrunner go off, clear off to the front, because you're going to have a carbon copy of what we saw in the Stephen Foster and some of these other races where he just gets out there and wings it on the front. I think Rally Cry has to go, and if for some reason Florent Geroux has to commit a little bit too early, I think that plays into Neolithic's hands.
I think Florent Geroux is going to break with Gunrunner. I think he's then going to play it by ear. If Rally Cry or Neolithic want to go, fine. In a perfect world, he's sitting the always dreaming Kentucky Derby trip. Let's talk about Rally Cry, however, because his last race, that Beyer speed figure of 110, certainly competitive with the likes of Gunrunner.
Yeah, and visually he was really impressive too. I thought Rally Cry did everything the way he was supposed to. His most recent start was the Aladar, and he got that just giant speed figure, 110. And the interesting thing about this horse, it's not as though this was a one-off. He has earned big speed figures in the past. The concern is class. The horses that he's defeating in here, look, far cry from Conquest, Windy City, and Motom, and you have Mohaymen at the back of the field. Again, no disrespect to any of the horses or connections, but we're talking apples to oranges as far as ability is concerned. He can do this against lesser. Can he do something like this against the likes of Gunrunner and even his uncoupled stablemate Neolithic?
I think you like him a little bit, however, to pull off a bit of an upset in this spot, and the price should certainly be fair. Got a big confidence boost in that race at Saratoga over course and distance. The problem is Gunrunner's last race also over course and distance. Of course, it was the Whitney 4 weeks ago, and we're going to go back to that race right now. And just keep in mind that Gunrunner's running right now with a shoe lodged in his tail, not his shoe, cautious Giant's shoe, who's sputtering near the back of the pack. Gunrunner really seems to appreciate Saratoga. He ran really well when no match for Arrogate in last year's Travers, and I just think his tactical speed and the ability to put himself in those good trip positions are going to play to his favor one more time in the Woodward. I think Gunrunner gets through this, and he's a very exciting candidate as we head to the road to the Breeders' Cup. Unfortunately, not a lot of value. I'm a chalk-eating weasel, it appears, in the Woodward. He's 2-5 on the morning line. He might go off even shorter than that, but Gunrunner is my pick in the Woodward. Nicole Russo is looking at 2 nice stakes races for 2-year-olds at Monmouth for her pedigree pick. Let's go to Nicole.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo coming to you with pedigree analysis on Out of the Gate. Monmouth has a pair of stakes for 2-year-olds on its Saturday card, the Sapling and the Sorority. Let's start by taking a look at the fillies and the Sorority. A lot of freshman sires represented in this field with the chance to score a stakes winner. Some kind of interesting things at play here. The lone stakes winner in this field is Bronx Beauty, who took the off-the-turf Colleen at Monmouth. She's from the first crop of Liaison, young Indian Charlie Stallion, who's kind of a sleeper among this year's freshman sires. He got a great book, which indicates that the bloodstock community likes him. I like the physicals he's putting on his foals, very typical of the Indian Charlie sire line, athletic-looking types. However, Bronx Beauty only earned a 46 Beyer for the Colleen, not even close to tops in this field. She's accomplished, but she's not the standout. The highest number in the field belongs to Pacific Gale by another freshman sire in Flat Out. And he's actually got 2 representatives in this race with a sensational Kiss also in there. Pacific Gale earned a figure of 65, winning her debut at Belmont. Came back to run 6th in the Schuylerville up at Saratoga, dropping back down out of graded to listed company. Other freshmen represented in the sorority are Mox Tough by Overanalyze, who's been at the top of the charts for this year's deep group of freshman sires, and Dark Artist by Painter, another kind of well-regarded horse. Got a sneaky good book. I think he's flying under the radar a little bit. But the best bred horse in this race, decidedly not by a freshman sire, Jehoza Cat, stepping up to stakes company off this impressive debut win at Laurel. The daughter of three-time reigning leading sire Tap It is out of multiple Grade 1 winner Precious Kitten, already the dam of multiple Grade 1 placed Divining Rod. Precious Kitten, a half-sister to champion Kitten's Joy, and this is the family of several good producers, including champion Dreaming of Anna. Now let's take a quick look at the sapling for the boys, which has a real standout in the field in Cowboy Karma, son of champion Kodiak Cowboy, winner of both his starts by open lengths, already a stakes winner, far and away the best numbers in the field. But you know, he's stretching out beyond 6 furlongs for the first time. And in talking pedigree picks, I want to talk about a horse who I really think will handle this distance. Let's take a look at Colt and Mississippi, one of 3 in the field for Todd Pletcher. He's coming off a maiden win going 7 furlongs at Saratoga, the only horse in the sapling field to have won at that 7 furlong distance as they stretch out to the mile now. The son of classic sire Pioneer of the Nile should handle that distance. Of course, we know they do. He's always been a well-regarded horse. He was a $400,000 weanling, which is a great price for a horse at that stage of development. Another one to look at here, Roaming Union, who you just saw finishing a close second to Colt in Mississippi there. He's coming into the sapling as a maiden, but he's by Belmont Stakes winner and the good 2-year-old sire Union Rags, and out of a Bernardini mare. I also like him stretching out. Best of luck on Saturday wherever you're playing. And if you're playing Saratoga, we'll be back with more on that card on Out of the Gate after these messages.
North America's first yearling sale for horses with turf appeal is coming to Fasig-Tipton. Selected yearlings by the nation's top turf sires. The Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase presented by Woodbine Racetrack, September 10th in Lexington, Kentucky. Where will you be?
Luxair Jets is excited to announce the new, most convenient way to fly nonstop from Lexington to historic Saratoga Springs throughout the racing meet. We are now offering exclusive group packages on our luxurious private jets. Each package offers a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you can share with your friends, family, or business partners. Call for pricing and availability.
Coming up this summer, it's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm. Every Wednesday through Sunday during the Saratoga meeting, Nicole Russo and I will analyze the best 2-year-old races at the spa. We'll go beyond the past performances and discuss pedigree, trainer patterns, workouts, and more. It's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm every Wednesday through Sunday at video.drf.com. Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for the Grade 3 $300,000 Saranac Stakes at Saratoga. Race number 9 on Woodward Saturday. Our Saranac Stakes coverage is presented by the Fasig-Tipton Turf Showcase, and for expanded stakes previews of most of the graded stakes this Labor Day weekend, head on over to video.drf.com. The horse to beat in this race, Matt, I think we will agree, is the undefeated Bricks and Mortar, trained by Chad Brown, a horse that has not taken a backward step on the Beyer speed figure scale, and he beat a couple of these horses last time out in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and he's been impressive in all of his starts. Like you say, 4 for 4 lifetime. I believe that most recent Beyer was a 94. There's no reason to think this horse doesn't take another step forward here. He's a little bit green still figuring things out, but there's no denying he's got a giant late kick.
Let's go back to the Hall of Fame stakes at Saratoga. We're going to see a really good trip for Bricks and Mortar. He's in that spot shadow in the pocket in behind the leaders right now, and he eases to the outside with a clear run after that ground-saving pace-tracking trip, and he's going to run down a pretty talented horse named Yoshida. Bricks and Mortar has an extremely powerful late rally that propelled him to the win over Yoshida, but I thought this was a good forward move for Yoshida, a horse with an immense amount of potential.
Am I out of line for saying if you reverse the trips, maybe Yoshida's the one that wins. Keep
That's
in mind,
fair.
Throughout the running, Yoshida was the one that was hung wide throughout. And again, they were basically in comparable positions on the racetrack as far as lengths back. But when you are the one carrying all the ground and you're the one that makes the first run, as Yoshida did, I'd kind of like to think you're only beaten by 3/4 or a length. If you reverse the trip, I'm not convinced that Bricks and Mortar still wins this race. I think maybe Yoshida turns the tables.
And while Yoshida came from 100 lengths out of it to win the James Murphy earlier this year at Pimlico, I think he's got a little bit more tactical speed than Bricks and Mortar. And there's a good chance that once again, he might get the jump on the expected favorite turning into the stretch. I want to talk about a horse, though, that's sort of a new face, a horse that didn't compete in the Hall of Fame Stakes. And that's one trained by Jimmy Jerkins named Rocketry. Let's go back to his most recent performance. Remember, this is a 1 3/8 race. He comes the long way around. He settles this very quickly.
He looks really, really good. Now, the biggest thing that you brought up is my biggest concern with this horse, the distance. This was at a 1 3/8. He's run well at a 1 1/4 in the past. 1 1/8 might be a little bit on the sharp side for him, and ultimately he's going to be at the mercy of pace and trip in this spot. I don't know that they're going to be burning early. I think it's going to be an honest pace, but I don't know that they're going to be going fast enough to set up for a horse like Rocketry.
Rocketry, though, is a horse you might want to consider in any kind of multiple race wagers. That was a very fast race, a breakthrough performance for Rocketry. Now he has to do it at a shorter distance against better horses. Speaking of facing better horses, Matt, the one that we like in this race, the one that we believe is going to be the wise guy horse in this race, Mr. Haverkamp, he beat nothing last time out. But as we take a look, he beat nothing the right way.
Yeah, this is all about visuals. Now, you're going to see in the spot shadow, this is the horse in the yellow sleeves. He's not out of a gallop. And you look at the fractions, it's honest enough, especially at Woodbine. This is his first time on the turf also. Keep that in the back of your mind. And this is what we call easy pickings right here. He hasn't broken a sweat. He's not out of first gear. These other horses are all out. As you made mention, Dan, the other horses, we're talking 68 and 70 buyer kind of horses. So he's supposed to do this. I think it's a very confident move from these connections. And if you go just based on visuals, this horse is every bit as talented as some of the other runners in here.
8-1 on the morning line for the #1 Mr. Haverkamp. And his career debut over a synthetic surface. Similar performance. He didn't win by 100, but he won very, very easily sprinting despite some trouble. Now that last race was basically a non-winners of 2 life. A giant step up in class. He's going to be going 2 turns for the first time. But I love the fact that Catherine Day Phillips, this horse's trainer, had options at Woodbine. She decided to come down here. Keep in mind, she's only run 1 horse previously at Saratoga. It was a dozen years ago in the Saranac. She won it. I think Mr. Haverkamp's going to work out a good trip. I'm just worried that there's a lot of steam on this horse, and he's half the 8-1 as it gets closer to post time. Let's move to Southern California for a really nice race, the Grade 1 Del Mar Debutante. Feature race at Del Mar on Saturday is the Grade 1 $300,000 Del Mar Debutante for 2-year-old fillies. Let's take a peek at this field. For expanded stakes previews, head on over to video.drf.com. Matt, we are expecting the #4 Gas Station Sushi to scratch, which would leave us with a field of 7. And the horse they're all going to have to beat is the undefeated 2-for-2 #3 Spectator, who looked really good last time out in the Sorrento.
First things first, what a name, Gas Station Sushi. Neither here nor there. Look, Spectator was awesome. She's really, really strong. She's done nothing wrong in either one of her lifetime starts. The best thing about her, and like you say, the most recent race in the Sorrento, she took over and she just kind of put the boots to the field. The most impressive thing for me anyway, this race comes when she's out there contesting the lead. The maiden score came off the pace, and she was a little bit green that day. If you remember, again, I know people roll their eyes about the lead changes. She was swapping the leads. This time out, she's professional. She's straight as an arrow, and she puts away the other speeds. Keep in mind, the other speed was even money. A heavy, heavy favorite. She's really, really talented.
That 50-1 shot looked her in the eye turning into the stretch, and Spectator said, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And then just opened up and won very, very nicely with that 50-1 shot, who was in prime contention turning into the stretch, absolutely sputtering in third. You mentioned Spectator's versatility. That's pretty impressive from only 2 lifetime starts. She's the horse to beat. She's going to get bet like she's the horse to beat. We came up with a couple of alternatives. Let's make some cases. You got Bob Baffer in your corner. That's a pretty good case.
Yeah, Just a Smidge is an interesting runner in here. She's another one that figures to be forwardly placed, so we're going to take a look. She's only gone out 1 time. She broke her maiden. This is her right now on the outside. She was pressing the pace throughout, and, she's going to feel the stick a couple times, but I like the way that she digs in and the way that she finishes here. Notice how far spread out the first and second place finishers are from the 3rd place runner in there, and keep in mind, Typhosia, maybe she's just become a bit of a bridesmaid already, but I think she is well above average. She might be the best maiden that we have in the country right now, 2-year-olds. I think just a smidge, though. The important thing, and you're going to touch on it momentarily, is how is this race going to be run from a pace standpoint?
Well, I'm very interested in a horse that I think could shake away to a nice, easy lead, and that's the number 2, Moonshine Memories. This one's wheeling back on fairly short notice. She only ran 2 weeks ago at Del Mar. We're going to watch that race right now. You talked about Typhosha. That's Typhosha on the outside confronting Moonshine Memories, who broke a step slow, rushed up to press the pace with a couple of other horses. But Mike Smith, who was riding Moonshine Memories this day, very, very confident in the stretch. Mild hand ride, little bit of race riding late. Best of all, really solid Beyer speed figure for a debuting 2-year-old filly, an 83. After this race, Simon Callahan said, well, the Del Mar debutante's coming back a little bit quick. We're going to opt for the Chandelier around 2 turns at Santa Anita. I guess Moonshine Memories is doing well because she's right back here in the entries. Let's look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. We're expecting a slow pace, as you see by that blue bar, which indicates favoring horses on or near the early lead. And I'm sure Craig Milkowski in his Timeform US Spotlight a little bit later on is going to dive into this a little bit more. But we have Moonshine Memories on the lead, just a smidge sitting in second. And if this pace projector is accurate, Moonshine Memories has a huge advantage over the closers turning into the stretch. 6-1 on the morning line for the 2, Moonshine Memories. That's my top selection. JK's got a play of the day. Craig's going to take a look at the Del Mar debutante in his Timeform US Spotlight. Let's hit those segments right now.
Hey everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. Hopefully last week you had a better opinion in the first leg of the Pick 6. I got you home the rest of the way, or at least the 5 of 6 put a little dent in the investment for you. Hopefully this week we can get some money as well. We're going to start at Saratoga. We're going to play the Pick 3 here, starting in race 9, the Saranac for 3-year-olds. People that listen to the DRF Players podcast know that I'm a huge fan of Yoshida, but don't let my fandom interfere with your my opinion on this horse, right? I think that he's going to run well. I think he's finally going to have a little bit of pace in front of him. His last 2 starts, he seemed a little bit rank, a little bit pulley. I think that Voodoo Song, the 5, should go ahead in front of him, should set him up just nice to sit right outside of that horse. And I think that Yoshida is one that could really pick up the pieces here if he can just relax a little bit, and I think he will with that pace in front of him. So I'm going to single Yoshida in the first leg. In the second leg, I'm going to single Separation of Powers. Obviously, her debut was really impressive. I think she's going to run really well in this spot. Pure Silver is going to be bet. Both of them were on an advantageous rail situation, but I still like Separation of Powers the most. I guess if you wanted to get cute here, you could look at the 3 Lady Ivanka at probably the third price there, maybe 5 or 6-1. But for me, I'm going to single Separation of Powers. I wouldn't talk you off of using the 3 Lady Ivanka, but for me, it'll be a single. Going on to the last leg, the Grade 1 Woodward. Obviously, I'm going to use Gunrunner a ton. I'm going to use about, I would say 75 or 80% of my pick 3s and my investment are going to be through to Gunrunner. Ice Cold, Yoshida, Separation of Powers to Gunrunner. But I'm going to have a little bit of a saver here, maybe 20%, 15% of my bet on the 3 Rally Cry. I thought that horse ran really big last time at this distance, 1 1/8 on this track, with a Timeform US figure that's close enough to Gunrunner that if Gunrunner somehow has an issue, loses a horseshoe, gets a horseshoe caught in his tail, not that that's happened before, I think Rally Cry could be a little bit dangerous, so I'm going to have a little bit of a saver ticket on him. But I think it's a pretty straightforward sequence. Like I said, Yoshida, Separation of Powers, and Gunrunner. But use a little Rally Cry under just in case. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Hi, this is Craig Milkowski, Chief Speed Figure Analyst for Timeform US, and I'm here to talk about the Del Mar Debutante Stakes at Del Mar on Saturday. It's being run for 2-year-olds. It's $300,000 purse, and it's kind of the highlight of the meet for 2-year-old fillies. First thing we want to look at is the pace projector. And what we see here is it doesn't show a whole lot of speed. It does indicate that the race may favor horses on or near the early lead, and it shows that the 2 and the 5 horses are most likely to get to the front. One thing with 2-year-olds, these are all very lightly raced horses, so in a lot of cases the pace projector is probably not as reliable as it is in some other cases. And in this spot, I'm actually going to go against the pace projector with my selection, as we'll see at the end. But first, let's look at a couple of those horses that are shown up near the front. The horse shown in front is the 2 Moonshine Memories. And this horse has run one time, breaking her maiden at the meet here at Del Mar. And she did so with a very impressive 110 speed figure. I mean, she was no surprise that day. She was ridden by Mike Smith, maybe one of the top jockeys in the country. She went off at odds of 7-2. And she won really easily. And that 110, off the top of my head, I think that is the best of a 2-year-old this year. Definitely 2-year-old filly. So she's one to watch. I'm sure she's going to take a lot of money. Just a Smidge is another one. She's also only run once. She broke her maiden also here at the Del Mar meet. And she did so with a big 103 speed figure. Once again, that's really good for 2-year-old fillies. And she basically didn't get a great start, a little slow out of the gate, but then she kind of rushed up, dueled around the track, and had enough late to pull away. So once again, it's another strong race. Really, it's a deep, tough field. These are all promising fillies. The next one we're going to look at is Spectator. She actually broke her maiden at Santa Anita with a nice easy win, 92 speed figure. And then she came back here at Del Mar and she won the Sorrento Stakes going 6.5 furlongs. And she did so, something you see a lot of these horses do when they're young. She jumped from a 92 time form US speed figure all the way up to a 107. So not only a pace projector is something I say I'm a little leery of in these 2-year-old races, but so is relying too heavily on speed figures. These horses can and do improve often, and a lot of times the horses that run the big speed figures first time out aren't as likely to do so second time out. The horse I am going to focus on is a horse Poetic. The horse, a lot of things I like about this horse. Trained by Dick Mandela, who's obviously one of the top trainers in the game. He knows how to handle a really good horse. He's being ridden by Mike Smith, who I mentioned earlier, was a Moonshine Memories jockey. He switches over. I'm not a guy, I don't read a whole bunch into those kind of things because who knows what's going on behind the scenes. But all I know is he shows up on Poetic, and I think it's a good thing. This horse, she's stretching out from 5.5 to 7 furlongs. And what really impresses me is her last race, where she just exploded through the stretch. She started out, you can see in her time form USPP, the pace was slow in the race. You can see they're coded in blue, and you can also see the numerical values. And she was only a few lengths back, but she was 7th, pretty far behind in a 9-horse field, so she had a lot of horses to pass. And when she turned from home, she just did it easily. She just inhaled this field going 5.5. I think a couple things here. I think she's going to really like the 7 furlongs. And I also think she's going to improve that speed figure like we've seen 2-year-old horses can often do. So it's more of a visual bet than a speed figure or pace projector bet here. I like the connection. So Poetic's going to be my choice in the Del Mar debutante. Good luck to everybody this week, and I'll see you next time on Out of the Gate.
Time for our best bet segment. Matt, who's the play on Saturday?
Going out to Del Mar, the John C. Maybe. It's going to be race number 9 Saturday. Mrs. McDougal is a horse that I've always liked when she was on the East Coast with Chad Brown. Now she's on the West Coast with Richard Mandela. Her return to the race is off of a long, long layoff. Came in the Asanitas. We're going to take a look at that race. Now, there's a couple things important to note. She's in the lime green silk splitting horses now, but keep an eye on the horse that's down on the inside, the number 7, in the white hat and sort of the white striped sleeves. That's Madame Stripes. Now on the outside, you've got this horse, Mrs. McDougal. She's had to take the long way around. Meanwhile, Madame Stripes is just waiting. She splits horses, and she finishes really well. Mrs. McDougal, I'm going to look at this and say she carried more ground, even though she was able to split foes. It was her first start in eons at this point, it seems like. First start for a new conditioner. And the other thing that's important, Richard Mandela said that she's going to be much more forwardly placed this time around in a race where there's not a ton of pace. Good year for Roses. She's the horse to beat. I want to try to beat her, break her from the outside. Give me Mrs. McDougal.
I'm going to Saratoga, race number 12, number 4, War Flag. Coming out of the Matchmaker Stakes at Monmouth on a grade 3 race. Some really good competition in that race. Similar situation as to Mrs. McDougal as we roll the tape. The winner of this race, Wakila, shoots the wood down towards the inside. Unfortunately for War Flag, she's got to go the long way around. And when you give a good horse like Wakila an inch, she's going to take 1 1/8 miles as she did in the Matchmaker. But War Flag really is determined in the stretch. She's going to pass an extremely talented horse in the classy Miss Temple City for second. But I think that key moment, And when we picked up the tape, when this horse had to go to the outside, it cost her the win. I think if you reverse the trips, War Flag wins this race. A Group 3 winner overseas in France, her first start in North America. She was in against the boys. She beat them. The runner-up, Muktazer, came back to win 2 in a row. That Matchmaker Stakes is solid. And I think the horses that she's in against the Glens Falls, Harmonize, coming in off 6 consecutive losses, 4 consecutive off-the-board finishes, questionable at this distance. She's going to vie for favoritism with War Flag. If I can get War Flag at 5-2 in the Glens Falls, I'm going to play her as my best bet on Saturday. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.